Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with our today's practice question, we have an announcement. BYJU'S National Scholarship Test is scheduled to be conducted on 29th of May 2022. How do you register? Follow the link given in the description box, give the necessary information, and you would be able to win some attractive scholarships. Let's get started and look into the first question. Consider the following statement. Out of 7 union territories, only 2 have representation in Rajya Sabha. An independent member of a house elected without being set up as a candidate by any political party becomes disqualified for being a member of the house if he joins any political party after the expiry of 6 months from the date on which he takes his seat in the house. This means that he may join any political party within 6 months of taking his seat in the house without inviting this disqualification. Third statement reads, American Senate has no nominated members. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Rajya Sabha. Let us try and understand what are these options. When we look into the first option, it says out of 7 union territories, only 2 have representation in Rajya Sabha. This entire statement is wrong. Why is the entire statement wrong? That is because we do not have 7 union territories. Instead, we have 8 union territories, and it is not 2 union territories which have representation in Rajya Sabha, but instead it is 3 union territories which have the representation in Rajya Sabha. Now, which are the union territories that we have? We have Andaman and Nicobar, Dadra Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, Jammu and Kashmir, Lakshadweep, Chandigarh, Government of NCT of Delhi, Ladakh and Puducherry. Out of these, we have 3 union territories which have a representation in Rajya Sabha, which happens to be Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir. So the first statement is wrong. When we look into the second statement, it says an independent member of a house. So this particular question is speaking about the independent member. Who is an independent member? A person who is not representing any of the political parties happens to be an independent member. According to anti-defection law, an independent member cannot join any of the political parties. So the minute he joins any of the political parties, he becomes disqualified. What are we speaking here? In this particular case, the second part of the statement speaks about the nominated members. So when it comes to the independent member, he cannot join any political party whatsoever. But when it comes to the nominated member of the Rajya Sabha, he becomes disqualified for being a member of the house if he joins any political party after the expiry of 6 months from the date on which he takes a seat in the house. But this also means that within 6 months he would be able to become part of the political party. So this is in reference to what we call as the nominated members and not the independent members. So the second statement is wrong. When you look into the third statement is right. Yes, American Senate has no nominated members. So the Senate is equivalent to Rajya Sabha in India, and when we speak about American Senate, they do not have the nominated members. If we have to look into certain facts, what is the principle of election in Rajya Sabha? Proportional representation with the means of single transferable vote. What is the role of Rajya Sabha in the passage of money bill? It cannot introduce, reject or amend the money bill, but has the right to return the bill with or without amendment. Who is the leader of Rajya Sabha? Just like we have the leader in the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha also has a leader who is a minister and member of the house and is nominated by the Prime Minister to function as such. And one of the important parameter, remember, he must not be less than 30 years of age, and when it comes to the Lok Sabha, this number is 25. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to Plastic Waste Management Amendment Rules of 2021, which of the following statements are correct? It prohibits specific single-use plastic items which have low utility and high littering potential by 2030. The provisions will not apply to commodities made of compostable plastic. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the single-use plastic. When we look into the first statement, what does it say? It says it prohibits specific single-use plastic items which have low utility and high littering potential, and this is not by the year 2030 but by the year 2020. So this is the first statement. The first statement is wrong. And when we look into the second statement, it says the provisions will not apply to commodities made of compostable plastic. This happens to be a right statement. So what is this single-use plastic? As the very name denotes, it says single-use plastic. So you buy that particular plastic, you use it for one single time, and you ensure that this is thrown away, chucked away, which is what is called a single-use plastic. So a plastic which is produced and designed to be thrown away after being used only once is what is called a single-use plastic. If we look into the second statement, the provisions will not apply to commodities made of compostable plastic. What is this compostable plastic? As the very name denotes, compostable basically means that which is capable of breaking down into the natural elements in a compost environment. So what is the difference between the compostable and biodegradable? When it comes to the compostable products, it requires a particular setting in order to break down. But when it comes to the biodegradable, what it does is that it breaks down naturally on its own. So when it comes to biodegradable, it breaks down on its own. When it comes to compostable, if there are certain conditions that are met, it breaks down eventually. So instead of using plastic that are made from the photochemicals and fossil fuels, compostable plastics are derived from the renewable materials like corn, potato, tapioca, cellulose, soy protein, lactic acid, so on and so forth. Now this article says for us to replace single-use plastics, what are the alternatives that we have? We can make use of bamboo and other wooden sticks for butts, cotton flag with wooden stick, stainless steel, ceramic, earthen, biodegradable cups, wooden forks and spoons, and then for wrapping or the packaging films, we can make use of cellophane cellulose film, recycled paper, recycled cardboard as well. So these are some of the alternatives to the existing single-use plastic, says this article. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements are correct with respect to vermin? The Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 does not define the term vermin. An animal can be declared as vermin only for a period as specified in the central government notification. Once declared a vermin, the species is deemed to be included in Schedule 5, opening them up to be hunted. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the vermin, which is why we have taken this practice question. When you look into the first statement, it says the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 does not define the term vermin. This statement is right. The Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 does not define the term vermin. So what do we understand by vermin? When we speak about vermin, those wild animals which are believed to be harmful to the crops, those that are wild animals which also carry diseases, those that are animals which are harmful to the crops and the livestock, those are called as the vermins. How is it governed? When it comes to India, what we have is the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, which governs about the vermin. Do we have it defined? No, we do not have it defined. But we have one of the sections called as Section 62, which goes on to say declaration of certain wild animals to be vermin. What does it say? It says the central government may, by notification, declare any wild animal other than those specified in Schedule 1 and Part 2 of Schedule 2 to be vermin for any area and for such period as may be specified therein, and so long as the notification is in force, such wild animal shall be deemed to have been included in Schedule 5. What is the Schedule 5? When we consider the Wildlife Protection Act, we have Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, Schedule 4 and Schedule 5. All those animals that are inserted in this Schedule 5 are assumed to be vermin. For example, the rodents and the insects, these are assumed to be vermin, and in that particular case, they would be able to cull them, kill them. So all those species, whether they are in Schedule 3 and Schedule 4, in case they become the major irritants, they happen to disturb the livestock and other crops, in that case the state government will make a request to the central government, and the central government will issue a notification for a specific period of time. This specific period of time can be 1 month, it can be 2 months, it can be 1 year. So it defines the period. So only for that particular period, the state government and its authority would be able to kill that particular species. So remember, there can be schedule 3 animal, there can be schedule 4 animal, but once it is inserted into this particular notification, we have to assume for that particular period that this is a schedule 5 animal. It can be schedule 3 animal, it can be schedule 4 animal, but only for that particular period in that area where the permission is given. Assume, deem it that it is part of schedule 5 and assume that it is a vermin, and you can go ahead and kill that particular species is what is the second statement. So the second statement says an animal can be declared as vermin only for a period as specified in the central government. So for the period that it is defined, it can be 1 or 2 months in that area, whichever state it is. It can be the state of Kerala, and a particular boundary in that particular area can also be drawn, and only in that area for a specific period you would be able to kill such species. So assume that this particular species is part of schedule 5. It can be a schedule 3 animal, it can be a schedule 4 animal, but please assume for this period that this is an animal which is placed under schedule 5. It is not in schedule 5, but assume it is placed in schedule 5. The third statement says once declared a vermin, the species is deemed to be included in schedule 5, opening them to be hunted. This is also the right statement. So the answer to this would be 1, 2 and 3. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following reports are published by the International Labour Organization? Global Wage Report, World Employment and Social Outlook Report, World of Work Report. The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the International Labour Organization. When we speak about the reports that are released by the International Labour Organization, we have about 4 important reports: World Social Protection Report, Global Wage Report, World Employment and Social Outlook, World of Work Report. All these 4 reports are given and published by the International Labour Organization. And when we speak about World Employment and Social Outlook Report, it gives a clear picture about global employment and social trends, measures the underperformance of labour market using the unemployment rate, assesses the full potential of the working age population, evaluates the participation of the labour market in the economic growth of the countries. So this article currently goes on to say that when it comes to the LGBT community, they are not respected world over. So in this particular backdrop, the article goes on to say that the LGBT community will have to be respected. They have to be provided with social protection programs so that all the existing obstacles are completely removed, so that these LGBT communities are empowered over a period of time. Now let's look into the next practice question. The money multiplier in an economy increases with which one of the following? Increase in the cash reserve ratio in the banks, increase in the statutory liquidity ratio in the banks, increase in the banking habit of the people, increase in the population of the country. The answer to this is increase in the banking habit of the people. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2021. So when we consider the banking system in the country, multiplier is one of the key components of the banking system. As more and more people start banking, they deposit more money, banks would be able to take this money from the people, and this money that is taken can also be lent by the banking system to the people as well. And ultimately what would happen, since there is more money that is stepping into the system, this will also mean that there'll be more money in the banking system. So bank would be able to collect, they would be also able to give loans as well. So what we will have is major transaction, which is why increase in the banking habit of the people is the right option. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is gun laws in United States of America. What is the context? We have about 19 children and 2 adults who were killed in a shooting incident which happened in Robb Elementary School in Texas. And when we look into the statistics, if you see from this image, for the year 2018, there were nearly more than 300 incidents. For the year 2019, it almost went beyond 400. For the year 2020, it almost reached close to 600. For the year 2021, it is much beyond 600 incidents. All of this means that the number of cases of gun violence are increasing at a higher pace, and it is United States of America and its people who are suffering. But country's politicians and voters continue to resist to any of the gun laws in United States of America. Now the question is, what is the law that is present in United States of America? In the United States of America, the right to buy a gun is written in the country's constitution, and basically only a few people, for example, if they have a criminal history or that particular person is suffering from mental illness, they would not be able to own the gun, but rest of the other section of the people, they would be able to own a gun. Where is it mentioned? We have the second amendment to the US Constitution, which says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Since this is the particular provision which is given in the second amendment of the Constitution of United States of America, which is why people would be able to own the guns for their own security. This was adapted back in the year 1791 as part of Bill of Rights. Now if you look into the statistics, according to a research by an independent global research project based in Switzerland, half of all the firearms owned by the private citizens in the world for non-military purpose are in United States of America. The survey said the Small Arms Survey found that the number of firearms exceeded US total population 393 million guns to 328 million people. In order to overcome this gun violence, there have been steps that have been taken by the former presidents who belonged to the Democrat Party, but because there was opposition from the Republican Party and because it was not moved in the Congress, this ultimately did not result in major loss in the United States of America. So the question now that is being asked is, why is that in United States of America there is opposition to the gun laws? That is because you have the Republicans who are opposing the Democrats. The Democrats in the past have taken initiatives and have also proposed bills as well, but the major problem is the Republicans are opposing, and as a result it is not being passed in the Congress. That's one of the major problem. Added to it, there is a lot of lobbying group in United States of America as well. We have one of the major organizations or associations called as the National Rifle Association. This National Rifle Association is a lobbying group. This includes manufacturers of the guns as well. This lobbying group does not want the bill or the legislation to pass because this could be detrimental to their businesses. As a result, what we have is the entire gun manufacturing industry which is opposing laws in United States of America. In order to overcome this particular issue, what are the measures that have to be taken? We have the President of United States of America, Joe Biden, who has to take up executive action to enforce gun control measures, and at the same time what we have to ensure is that whenever a particular person is being given a gun, as in the past, whether they have criminal precedents or not, that should be checked, and at the same time the gun proliferation can also be reduced if we are able to perform background checks for the gun ownership. And at the minimal level, assault weapons can be completely banned in United States of America to the individuals. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.